All right, so we're going to talk mostly about goals in this video, and a goal, as it applies to this kit, is really anything that you want to craft to make the game a little bit more interesting, get people kind of hooked into it so they have something to try to achieve. And you can see that we've got just a few goals listed in here so far: set multiplier to 2, 4, 6, and 8, and one for the plunger, which we talked about earlier. And that's an example of one where you're really not setting out anything to achieve, but what this does is just lights up some stuff on the table. So your goal can really be used for any number of things. It could be an achievable thing, could just be something to help you make the table look better. So we're going to pick on the multipliers, and to do that properly, we need to go over here and set up a multiplier button, or basically just a little switch widget type thing on the side of the table that you need to aim for. And the texture for this, you can see, is just this little kind of little nubby button. I'm going to reverse this around though, so I'm going to set the scale to -1. You can see it's now facing the other direction, and we're going to give this a name of multiplier button. And then, since this is something that I want the ball to collide with, the class is going to be TableObject. And let's not forget our important last step here, which is to actually give it a physics body. We'll just go with how about bounding rectangle, and I'm going to toggle all of these off so it's not going to fall right back down to into the drain. And then let's go over here to our actually, even before we do that, let's copy this out a few times so we got quite a few of them to aim for. I actually think these are a little bit, it should be more about over there, hanging against the wall. Okay, so let's get 4 of them out here. And those, from testing the game with these multiplier buttons over here, I've noticed that the first 3 are generally pretty easy to get to. It's this last one down here that you really got to aim with the flipper for. So once you've done that, and notice that they all have the same name of multiplier button, let's head over to our property list. And again, we've copied everything in our demo table just from table 1, which had these already set up. So let's kind of pretend that we didn't do that. And what I'll do is just delete this out, make a new table object in here, set it to dictionary, and of course the name is going to match the name that we gave it in the file, in the scene. So that's multiplier button. And I'm going to copy in a few things that we've already looked at multiple times, which is setting up the texture atlas for it, just defining where the animated frames are for this. The collision animation, you can see multiplier button, and if I were to show you what that looks like, oops, that's the wrong folder. I'm looking for texture atlases. Let's pull all that back up. It is, there it is, multiplier. So all it does is it just kind of pushes the little button in there visually, and notice that it's really just staying put, but it's just sliding in like that. We could actually move it around when there is a collision, and that would be a good thing to teach you guys. We haven't actually seen it yet in terms of the videos. And then I'm going to create or add in here collision animation limit, which just limits it so that the number of times that this can animate is only 1. All right, so after it's been pushed in once, it's not going to replay that push-in animation if the ball were to hit it again. And here's an important one for us: resets on ball loss, because not only is that going to make the table object go back to how it originally looked visually, but it's also going to reset our goals that we're going to contribute toward every time that you hit this little button thing. All right, so before I forget, let me go ahead and put in here that collision offset. And this is, even though we're kind of dealing with numbers here, this is actually going to be a string type because it's in this format where we have opening squiggly bracket, a closing squiggly bracket, and then we put in here the numbers that we want to offset in X and Y format. So for this little button thing, if I put in here 10, that means it's going to push the button about 10 points this direction. All right, so a positive value this way, and it's not going to move it at all on the y-axis. So this one refers to the x, this one refers to the y, and that's yet another thing that's going to get reset on ball loss. It's going to go back to its original position. And you know what? I don't think we talked about this either. Let's go ahead and put in collision vector, And again, this is in that same format. And what you can do is if the ball collides with a particular object, you can send it off in an exact direction. So in this case, maybe we want to go negative 250, because remember this guy is kind of straddling the side over here, so sending it a negative value is going to go back in that direction. And that way too, the ball doesn't really have as much of a chance of, let's say, hitting this one and then cascading down and hitting that one and that one and that one on the way down. So as long as it hits one though, it's going to go back off in that other direction. And again, this is in XY format, so if we don't want to add anything to the Y, just put 0 inside of there. And now let's start dealing with our goals. So put in here another property. This one's going to be called adds to goal, and we could set this as a string value if we just wanted this to contribute to one goal, but this is actually going to contribute to each one of our multipliers. We've got a 2x, 4x, 6x, and 8x, so you don't have to watch me type too much of this. Let me just go and delete that, and I'll just paste it on in. So we've got adds to goals, and again, this is an array type, so these are the goals that it's contributing to. And if you were to scroll down here and look at your actual goal names, you got the same matching names over here, right? Identical. And these are anything that you want. Don't think that you have to always stick to what I've put in the kit here, and you can have an unlimited number of them. So you get to really craft what is going to happen. All right, now let me get the kind of the remainder of the properties in here that I'd like, and then we'll talk about the nitty gritty. So there's at least one more of the goals. Max to add to goal. So what this does is it basically makes it so that once this button has been hit, it can only add to those goals at one time. And if you didn't have that in there, then every time the object got hit, it's going to go and add to the goals again. So, and you can set in here a specific number of times that it can contribute to the goals. And then 1, 2 that we haven't really talked about yet is you can put in here a Boolean property that says 0 mask after collision, which just means that once that button has gotten hit the first time, its physics body is essentially null. It's got a category mask of like 0 if you want to get technical, and it's really just kind of ignored then after that point. The artwork is still there, but there's nothing at all to collide with. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on. Again, we have 4 of these guys over here, and underneath our goals, let's unfold each one of these. You can see that we've got different achieved at values for each one of them. All right, so when we have an achieved at value of 1, that just means that if a button added to this, or whatever, that button, that table object added to this goal one time, this has been achieved. All right, so the first time one of those little buttons gets hit, the achievement text says, hey, 2x multiplier active. Remember, this is line 2 of the achievement text. And then we're setting the multiplier equal to 2. And a multiplier is, as you can imagine, it is a multiplier that gets added into incoming scores. So if bouncing off a bumper usually is 100 points, now it's going to be 200 if our multiplier is 2. And then what we're also doing here is playing animation 1 for our 2x light, which is just, oh, we haven't even added it on here. Well, let's go ahead and do that. I believe it is 2x. Oh, maybe it's just 2x on, and we'll add that 2x light. And we, of course, have to specify that that's going to be a light. I might have to double check that that's the usual starting value, but I believe it is. Let's see, here's our multiplier lights. Okay, yeah, so they just start at 2x on 1, 2, 3. And you can see that, there you go. And I do already have the, in the property list, I already have those lights set up because, again, we just copied it all from before. So you can see if you scroll down here, the animation 1 is all set up, ready to go. And you can even add in here, well, this would apply if the light was actually collided with, so it really doesn't apply to that. Okay, and disable contact is on for that light, so there's no collision animation. And disable contact for a light like this, that's just going to be used as some sort of visual guide that you're in a particular mode like multiplier 2. This just does a little bit of optimization with the code. It's kind of an optional value, but again, if you just kind of want this to be more ignored, put in there disable contact. Okay, so back over here to our goals. Now you might be thinking, well, why are we contributing to 4 goals each time we bump into that button? How come it isn't just set multiplier to 2? Well, think about it like this. We've got 4 of these multipliers on the stage, right? Got all 4 of them up here. So when one of them gets hit, that guy's kind of out of the game, right? It's not going to contribute anymore. So, but when it has contributed, it's done what? It's added 1 to each one of our multipliers, all right? So that means that after the first time around, this one's achieved, and then this one that requires, 2 increments, it's only 1 away now from being achieved, and this one's 2 away from being achieved, and this one's 3 away. So every time you then hit one of those multipliers, you're then achieving this one, this one, this one, and then this one. So it doesn't really matter the order that you collide with those buttons. If you hit all 4 potential goals for this, and you've unlocked multiplier 8, and you could at this point also add an extra ball. You could put in here add ball, right? And that would actually add 8 balls. So if you just want to add 1 ball, just put in there a number for 1. And of course, all the potential properties for your goals are listed out in the documentation. But yeah, the point is that you can kind of work toward some larger goal that really rewards you if you just happen to make it all the way through there. And you'll also notice too that in the first multiplier, I'm just playing animation 1 on the 2x light, but then on the set multiplier to 4, I'm just kind of restarting the 2x light and playing the 4x light, just so there's kind of like a little bit more attention down toward that focus of the stage, so you kind of see them all start to light back up again and play through their animations. And then a really cool thing about, I just think the kit in general is this whole goal system, but because we had reset on ball loss set to over here, what's going to happen is the kit is going to know that that this particular object has contributed X amount to those goals, and it's going to go and actually subtract them and reset those goals back down to being 0 again. So essentially, you start back over. The lights are going to get reset as well. And that happens because if we go down over here to our lights, you'll notice that we've got reset on ball loss set to yes over here as well. Okay, so that does it. You know what I'll do? I'll pause the video and I'll come back when I've got the rest of the multiplier artwork in here, and I'll record a little test video where we see if this is actually working. All right, well, that didn't take me long. By the way, I did forget to put in the other ramp from the last video. I guess I'll have to do that sometime. But here you go. So you can see that the collision vector knocks it out, and then the flipper knocks it back in. I did happen to get it all 4 times there, and I lit up the 8 multipliers, and you can see obviously that when the ball went back down into the drain, we'll just replay it, that they end up going back to what they were before. And the demo right now doesn't have any achievement text, but a label could notify people that you've achieved the 4x multiplier or whatever. So we got a little bit of time left, so let's go and just make a example goal, and I'm just gonna go ahead and list out some of the goals that we haven't talked about yet in this video or any of the previous ones. Remove is another option, so this could be it's gonna have to be a string value, so any node to remove. I would so just list out the name of it, and that could also be an array. Anytime you see a string in here, it can be an array as well. And another one that is a little less well, I don't want to say dangerous, but remove will take it out of there forever. Okay, hide is probably what you want most of the time. So if you're just you want to show and hide something, this could be combined with the properties for that particular table object or light or whatever it is. And then if you have reset on ball loss set to yes, then that particular object is going to unhide itself when the ball is lost down the drain. Similarly, we've got any show, and this could be any node that you want to show. And what this does is it works with the the dot hidden property, which is a property for all SK nodes. So when I say a node in here, I really mean it could be anything. Anything that descends from SK node, which is, again, pretty much anything. All right, so another one would be reset, and this is only going to apply to table objects or light. So let's put in here table object or light to reset. And that is going to, you guessed it, just reset it back to its original look. And it would also reset any goals that it had contributed to, so it'd subtract from those. Light up is similar to that, or it's kind of the opposite, but for a light only. I'll put it here for lights, for light only. And this would work with whatever collision animations that were in that light. And it's just kind of a convenient way of triggering those without the ball actually having to collide with it. But you could do the same thing with your play animation 1 through 8. It's just that this gives you another way to access the collision animations you'd stored in there. So some of the rewards, we did just look at we did just look a moment ago at add ball, and that is an important one because that's it's usually the one that you're going to really emphasize in your game. So you can add any number of balls to the remaining ball count. Scores, of course, another great one. So you give somebody a big score based on achieving a goal. We just looked at multiplier. Here's a fun one. Advanced table. So you could actually have a hidden table, a completely different table scene to load up, and this is going to be the name of the table data. All right, and that's important. It's not actually the name of the SKS file, because if you guys remember, let's take a look at our table. All of our tables have they define their SKS name. So what you're pointing out with that property is the actual name of the table in the property list. So table 1 or demo table would be 2 examples that would work in this project so far. And then you can also, there's a little variation of that, advanced table with score. So if you don't want to just completely reset the game back to both players having 0 score again, you can pass the scores into the incoming table. So in that way, the old NES Mario, the old NES, I think it was called Pinball, just Pinball. It had something like this where you could actually, you went into a particular hole that you had to kind of unlock, and then it would go into this board that actually had Mario carrying around a platform that the ball would ricochet against. And you didn't have any flippers, but you just tried to keep the ball in the air long enough, to unlock. It was kind of like an Arkanoid situation. And then eventually, you'd lose the ball and you'd end up back at the main table again. So you could actually do something like that, and you'd want to, of course, keep the score for people. Sounds, you can play any number of sounds inside of here. And again, we've talked about this. Sound or sounds, plural works. So, you can put in here an array of sounds. And you can also, let me fold that back up. Sound sequence, you can write that in there too. So if you want to put in here an array of sounds to play in order, that'll work. And achievement text, that is one I think we've already looked at that in this video, so let's skip over that. And let's see. Oh, there's plenty more. We've got adds to goal. That's another one. Adds to goal. So this could be, let's put in here, string or array of other goals to add to. And same thing works with subtracts from goal. And this is just going to subtract 1 to subtract from. And you can also reset goals. That'll be like a total reset of any particular goals. And that one we have seen before, but I'll just put a little reminder in here, total reset of goals. And a lot of times you're going to use that with goals that you work toward only once, and then you want them to be reset again, like the plunge goal. We've also got the make dynamic, which will make, well, I'll just put in here table object to make dynamic, and by dynamic, it's also going to include it. It's going to set it's affected by gravity to being true as well, and also its rotation property is going to be enabled. So essentially, it's it's mostly used for enacting a multi-ball mode. So probably what you're going to put in here is something like extra ball, but that could actually be anything. So you could have like a weird extra rock or boulder or something like that that's going to come tumbling down when it becomes dynamic. And the kit knows that if it's an extra ball, so if it's anything that is of that ball class that is made dynamic, it's going to then enact a multi-ball mode, and at which point you can set the camera zoom settings and stuff like that, which are going to pull the camera out so you can see more of the table, and you can even adjust the position of the table, or I should say not the position of the table, but the max amount or minimum amount that the camera can go down to, because sometimes you have to adjust those things. And by default, I've already got all that set up, of course, but that's something that you can tinker around with in your camera settings. And we'll talk about that, I'm sure, at some point in the video. So some other ones, you can move ball to another place. So move ball to node, and we'll put in here any node to move the ball to, and that one just applies to the main ball, or actually I should say, the main ball. But you can also put in here move node to node, and we'll say any node to move another node to, and this is actually a dictionary value, so let me go ahead and change that a little bit. So in this case, the node to move is here, and the node for the new position of that moving node. There we go. And the same thing is going to be true for animate node to node. Animate node to node. And what that does is it moves it over 2 seconds. And there's and the same rules apply here. So this is the guy that's getting moved. So that could be some sort of table object that acts as maybe a barrier that would unlock extra balls, or some other thing that's going to kind of fall down after that. Or again, it could be, we saw this with the safety bumper that we talked about, and I forgot, we did talk about this already in these videos. So another option is quick animate node to node, and that only goes for 1 second. So this one's 2 seconds, this one is 1 second. And all right, now some other like really crazy ones you can put in here, and this is just a string value. This is actually a number value. This is going to be turn on turbulence. Actually, it's turbulence field 4. It's kind of a long property name, but you can specify the number of seconds to activate a turbulence field in the scene, and the same thing is going to be true for a linear gravity field, radial gravity field, spring field, drag field, vortex field, noise field, and velocity field. So to set these guys up, what you would do is come over here and find each one of them. So the property name is always turn on, and then whatever the name is here, radial gravity field, and then end it with 4. So for example, with our turbulence, where did our turbulence go to? There it is. Okay, so you can put this guy over here, and it's be sure that if you don't want it on all the time, be sure you set the strength down to 0, but then you can set all of your other properties, and what the goal is going to do is it's going to activate the strength for that amount of time that you set. So if it's 5, that's 5 seconds. So it just takes the strength from 0 and it puts it up to 1, and then of course that's temporary, and then takes it back down to 0 again. So in some sense it's kind of like an anti thing. You don't really want that to happen because it's really hard to control the ball after that point. Although you could pull the ball into an area as well. I mean, I use the turbulence in that Old West pinball game so basically once the turbulence is on, the ball kind of goes crazy like that for a little bit. And yeah, you don't want it happening, because usually what happens is it just falls down the drain because you can't get to it. But again, it could be something where you activate a gravity field and it kind of makes the ball stick to a certain place. And to be honest, I haven't even played around with all of these things. Some are just make the ball do wild things. But it is a neat effect, and not something that you maybe usually see in other pinball games. There is kind of a little trick here that you have to be aware of, which is to make sure that the ball, and let me go find the ball over here, extra ball. Or no, this is just our main ball, sorry. We don't even have extra balls in here yet, do we? We need to make sure that the field mask for this is going to match the category mask of the turbulence field. So I went ahead and made sure that this was the case in the starter kit. The one I'm tinkering around with here is a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and set it field mask, and then I'm going to have to go back over here to the turbulence field. I do need to give this a name of turbulence field. That's important as well. And set that category mask to 1. And what happens there is that it's not going to affect anything that doesn't have that field mask set to 1. So you could actually have multiple objects on here that are affected by the turbulence field other than the ball. But that could get a little weird because their entire position you could yank these multiplier buttons off of the wall by doing something like that. So yeah, just be sure that the category mask is set to 1 or any number that's going to match whatever the field mask is for the ball. And yes, again, just a little reminder that when you're naming these, that is important. So be sure that you put in here that this is going to be turbulence field or linear gravity field. Just take the spaces out, radial gravity field, spring field. And that way you got an easy way of kind of remembering what the name is supposed to be. Okay, so that about does it for the goals that exist right now as of about version 1 of the kit. And don't forget that if you do want to, read about these goals, not just listen to them, me talk about them, go over here to the documentation, and you can just just find it on the side menu over here. Goals, there it is, and then you can just read the properties. There they are, goal properties for everything we just talked about. They're kind of subdivided down into kind of groupings of what they do. All right, on to another video later.